Okay, so artificial intelligence. It seems like it's the topic every educator is talking about right now, right? But what does it actually mean for you and for your students? Well, in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that noise and give you a really clear guide.
I mean, this is the big one, isn't it? Is this new tech a super powerful assistant that's going to slash your workload, or is it just a fancy cheating tool for students? To get to the bottom of it, we're going to dig into some key insights from educator Miles Berry. The goal here is to help you go from feeling kind of uncertain to being, informed and confident. All right, first things first. Let's pull back the curtain and see how this stuff actually works, because it's so important to get this straight. It's not magic, it's just math. So, here's the deal. There's been this huge shift in how we think about computers. The old way, a person, a human, wrote very strict code, and the computer just did what it was told. But AI? Well, AI is totally different. It's built on a model that has kind of learned to spot patterns all by itself, just by plowing through massive, and I mean massive amounts of data from the internet. And maybe the best way to wrap your head around this is to think of it as a stochastic parrot. That's a great term for it. The AI isn't thinking. It doesn't understand a thing. It's just mimicking human language. It's predicting which word is most likely to come next, statistically speaking, based on everything it's ever read. Yeah, it's kind of like a game. So if you start a sentence like, once upon a time, there was a cat who sat on a... The AI's model is probably going to predict the next word is mat. Makes sense, right? But because it's all about probability, it might just randomly pick a less likely but still possible word, a token, like elephant. It's not being creative, it's just playing a word game based on statistics. And this whole random, probabilistic thing has two huge consequences for you as an educator. First, you will never get the exact same answer twice, ever. And second, and this is a big one, if the AI makes a weird choice, like elephant, it will then constantly make stuff up to justify that mistake. These so-called hallucinations, they're not a bug. It's a feature. It's just part of how the system is built. Okay, so now that we know about its, let's call them quirks, how can this incredibly well-read, if maybe a little unpredictable, tool actually become your new teaching assistant? Let's get into it. So instead of a simple prompt like, hey, give me a lesson plan on the periodic table, you can use your professional expertise to steer it. You start with the curriculum objectives. Then you ask it to find common student misconceptions. Then you tell it which teaching model to use, like the 5E model. And then you ask it to generate the plan. See? You're the expert here. You're in the driver's seat. Now, the great thing is that AI will come up with ideas you might not have even considered. That's awesome for creativity. But you've got to remember this example. An AI suggested heating magnesium and iron wool in a Bunsen flame. I mean, what could go wrong? It's trying to be helpful, but it's not always going to be truthful or, safe. Your professional judgment is absolutely critical to check what it's spitting out. And look, this isn't just a hypothetical thing. The UK's Department for Education, the DFE, has actually identified the key areas where AI could have the biggest impact. It's stuff like planning, giving feedback, creating resources. The things that drain the most teacher time. They're calling this the low-hanging fruit for actually reducing your workload. But of course, the story gets a whole lot more complicated when this tool isn't just in your hands. What happens when it's in your students' hands, too? Now we're getting into tricky territory. Miles Berry tells this really powerful story about an art student who made this incredible piece using AI. But when he got all this praise for it, he felt awful. He actually admitted, I didn't do it. It just goes to show you there's this really deep-seated human need for authentic creation. And that feeling, that crisis of conscience you can get when you pass off a machine's work as your own, that's real. And then there's this story, which is kind of hilarious, but also a really good warning. A student asked an AI to write an obituary for the famous General Hannibal Barca, but with one little twist. Write it as if dyslexic. Well, the AI latched onto the word dyslexic and pretty much ignored Hannibal. The result was complete nonsense about his love for clowns and unicorns. It just shows how easily the AI can completely miss the context. So, with all these incredible new powers on one hand and these pretty obvious risks on the other,
What does the future of education even look like? What is a teacher's role now? What's the new game plan?
Well, the regulators are already drawing some lines in the sand. Organizations like the Joint Council for Qualifications, or JCQ, are being very clear. Any work a student submits for a grade must be their own, period. If they use AI, they have to declare it, and you can't give marks for what the machine did. And here's the other side of that coin. Teachers also have to be transparent about how they're using AI. We also have to talk about what's baked right into the machine. Because these AIs are trained on the internet, they just reflect the biases that are already out there. You know, ask it for a picture of computer programmers, and you'll probably just get a bunch of pictures of white men. It's perpetuating a stereotype. It's a direct reflection of its training data, and it's something we absolutely have to be critical of when we use these tools.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. We could just get a machine to do all our lesson planning and all our marking, but there's this great quote from cognitive scientist Daniel Willingham. Memory is the residue of thought. We get better as professionals because we do the hard work. That struggle, that's where the real learning happens.
So that leaves us with this final big question. The machine can definitely do the work, but can it do the learning? Not for us, and definitely not for our students. And that means all those uniquely human parts of teaching, the inspiration, the motivation, the connection, helping students through that productive struggle, well, they've never been more valuable or more important than they are right now.